Welcome to Learning with Philemon. In this video, we will be looking at the organic compounds called alcohols. Alcohols, like alkanes, contain only carbon-carbon single bonds. However, unlike alkanes and alkenes, they are not hydrocarbons. Alcohols contain carbon and hydrogen, but they also contain oxygen atoms. For a compound to be considered an alcohol, it must contain a hydroxyl OH group. The general formula for alcohols is CnH2n+1OH. Note that this is similar to the general formula of alkanes. Below we see the first three alcohols: methanol, ethanol, and propanol. Technically, this compound should be called 1-propanol, but this will be covered in the IUPAC naming video. Note that when we refer to a hydroxyl group, we mean that a carbon is singly bonded to an oxygen, which is also bonded to a hydrogen atom. In some diagrams, the covalent bond between the oxygen and the hydrogen atoms is not shown. Notice that the suffix used for alcohols is -ol, methanol. Instead of showing the molecular formula, I have written the condensed formula, which shows the atoms in order as they appear in the structural formula. For example, in propanol, we have a CH3 group, followed by two CH2 groups, and an OH group. Using a condensed formula makes it very clear that an OH group is present and that the molecule is an alcohol. Now let's see how alcohols are formed. One way to form alcohols is using yeast, a single-celled microorganism. Just like the cells in our body, yeast use glucose in aerobic respiration to form ATP. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen. If yeast are placed in an aqueous glucose solution between 25 to 35 degrees Celsius without oxygen, anaerobic respiration occurs. In this process, glucose is turned into ethanol and carbon dioxide. Note that in this equation, the molecular formula C2H5OH of ethanol is given, not the condensed formula. Note that yeast is used in the production of alcoholic beverages like beer, as it produces alcohol. Yeast is also used in the production of bread, as the carbon dioxide formed can make dough rise. This process is also called fermentation. Alcohols can also be formed using addition reactions. In this reaction, the alkene ethene is reacted with steam, water vapor. Addition reactions are discussed in more detail in the alkene and electrophilic addition videos. In order for the reaction to occur, an acid catalyst is used, and the reaction is conducted at a high temperature of 300 degrees Celsius and a high pressure of 60 atmospheres. Now let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of these two methods. The advantage of fermentation is that it uses a renewable resource. Glucose can be obtained from plants such as sugarcane that can be replanted and grown relatively quickly. On the contrary, ethene is formed from the cracking of long-chain alkanes, as discussed in the fuels video. These alkanes come from petroleum, which is formed over millions of years. Due to this timescale, petroleum is considered a non-renewable resource. Another advantage of fermentation is that as the reaction is conducted between 25 and 35 degrees Celsius in an aqueous solution, the method and the equipment required are simple. Remember that the addition of steam to ethene is conducted at high temperatures and pressures, which requires energy and specialized equipment. An advantage of the addition method is that it is a continuous and fast process. On the contrary, fermentation takes a long time. Also, when the alcohol percentage reaches a certain level, it kills the yeast cells. The process has to be started again with new yeast. Furthermore, the addition method produces pure ethanol. The alcohol produced in fermentation needs to be separated from the water using distillation. Now let's see what alcohols can be used for. Alcohols, like alkanes, undergo combustion reactions. In this reaction, we see the complete combustion of ethanol, which produces carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Alcohols can be used as fuels. An advantage of using ethanol as a fuel is that it can be produced from plants, which are a renewable resource. A disadvantage of using ethanol as a fuel is that it produces less energy than when alkanes are burned. The energy released in reaction depends on the energy required to break bonds in the reactants and the energy released when forming bonds in the products. When burning alcohols, more energy is required to break the bonds in the reactants than for alkanes of similar molecular size. This will be further discussed in the energetics playlist. Ethanol is also used as a solvent to dissolve other substances such as paint, glues, and perfumes. Thank you for listening. To consolidate your learning, try to answer the questions in the description. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more content. Stay curious.